So I kind of wanted to do this video on camera, but I was like, man, fuck that. Like, um, so I'm just gonna have some type of gameplay in the background because like that was kind of like an original idea that I had for this video. And then I was like, yeah, what am I leafy? Like, anyways, so I guess to start this off, this is gonna be kind of gonna be just a retelling of like my time in XGN and actually shit that happened to me. And I'm just kind of just sitting here talking to y'all, you know, and this is gonna be like a little story time, you know, a little story time. And I might upload this like separately. Well, not separately because you're hearing this all together in one video, but like this part specifically separately, like on my second channel probably. But yeah, okay, so to start off with, I joined XGN the first time back in October, it was October 31st, 2014. And it was all right, you know, much less organized than what it was and a lot more strict than what it was. A lot of people I met there, but I met like one of my best friends there at the time. And like she was what kind of kept me there. And man, oh my god. So in 2014 I was what, 12 years old, 11 years, I would be, yeah, 12 years old there, while I was there. And like that was definitely, I believe, not the age requirement. So I was lying then. I was lying, like, yeah, I was lying then about my age. And I lied as well about my age to like one of my best friends then. And if she happens to see this video, I'm sorry. I know we haven't talked like in a huge grip, but like, sorry, I lied. Anyways, my original time in XGN was like kind of iffy, I guess. Well, it was during the golden age still on Xbox 360, where like Black Ops 2 was like really popping still, because Black Ops 2 was like a GOAT game, like the best COD, my favorite game of all time. And it was pretty fun to, I guess, just talk to niggas, have people to talk to, because I believe at this time probably my previous friend group was like insanely toxic, and I stopped talking to them. But yeah, this was like, it was a cool experience. Something like kind of bad happened where one of our mutual friends got like blacklisted at the time, and like obviously the blacklist is like, oh yeah, if you know, you did something heinous in the community, nobody can talk to you ever again. Pretty much that's part of the community, and if you do, then you get membership revoked, or sometimes blacklisted. But one of our friends got blacklisted, and like we were all like, okay, fuck it, like we're gonna go make our own clan. And it's kind of like a reoccurring thing that happens in gaming communities, is that like niggas get fucked over like for small shit, and then they go and create their own clan, like it's gonna end up working out. Which I left because my friend got blacklisted along when they created that clan, so I ended up leaving. And I didn't join their clan, I was just there while they were there, so you know, it was cool. But you know, I ended up experiencing that later on down the line at the end of my second time in XGN, right? So fast forward, I guess, And I'm talking to that friend of mine still, 2 years later, and I'm like, man, like, honestly, fuck it, let's go back to XGN. And she was like still hesitant and everything because they did fuck us over, like, for real. Like I can't even remember the specifics, but like they like wrongly blacklisted this nigga, like, for it must have been, it was like something like really trivial, like, oh, he accidentally joined a party and there was some like blacklisted clan there, like, in the party, and if that happens and someone sees you do that, then like you get blacklisted. That's kind of the control that they had on niggas like that. So it was something like that. And but anyways, she was still like hesitant because, you know, whatever. But for me, I was like, you know, I didn't really experience it firsthand, so I was like, okay, whatever, I'll just join back, you know, see what's popping, see what's going on. And I applied, and I was thinking, I wonder if I'm blacklisted, because I was hanging out with those people that were after I just left. And there's been times that I learned on later down the line where people have left the community and then gotten blacklisted because they went and started like talking to people that were blacklisted, which again, another form of control on people that weren't even members at the time. But members now, oh yeah, you can't talk to this nigga because they just went and talked to this nigga, like, after they don't even have any control on them anymore. But anyways, I was like, no, I wonder if I'm still blacklisted. But I wasn't gonna tell them, right? So I applied. Did I? No. What I did was, originally back around Christmas time, I actually DM'd Corey on Twitter. I'm sure I can probably go on my other account, and if I do find it, I'll flash on the screen like that original DM. I DM'd Corey, and I said, yo, I'm looking to join XGN. And that was like it, basically. And he was like, oh yeah, I can set you up with someone, and they can get you like trained in and stuff. I was like, okay, cool, awesome. And like a week goes by, and I'm like, okay, interesting. And I DM him again. I was like, hey, nobody like really hit me up. And he was like, oh shit, let me get someone like right now. And like literally like 30 minutes later, someone like messaged me on the box, and I was like, and by the box I mean like Xbox. Someone messaged me and was like, oh yeah, you're looking to join, right? I was like, yeah. And so I joined his party, and he trained me in, and there I was, corporal in XGN Nexus TH, clan squad division rank, yes lord. And it was cool. It was like way better than what it was like the second time around, or the first time around. It was just way better. There was a lot of like really cool individuals, and back then I lied about my age once again because I didn't want to get put into a junior squad, because like who wants to be around a bunch of like fucking squeakers, for real? But I was 14, and you had to be 15 to be in a quote unquote adult squad. So I lied. I said I was 15 when I was 14 actually. But I wouldn't turn 15 until that following February. I got trained in on December 31st, 2016. I don't remember by who, but I just know that obviously I landed in Nexus TH. TH being the division Triple Helix. Anyways, it was really cool there. It was really cool there. A lot of really, I guess, cool people, and I really took an interest in wanting to actually rank up, because I didn't when I was like in first time around. So I was like, okay, like why not? I'll try it out. So I ended up meeting some people. I I started talking with Oreo Patty, who you heard the interview already in the video. And I talked to one of his buddies at the time that was also in XGN Sours, who ended up getting blacklisted later on. But I was like, oh yeah, like I'm trying to rank up, and he was like, oh yeah, that'd be perfect, awesome, great, awesome. And they kind of just took me under their wing, and I just kind of played with them and talked to them, and they were pretty cool. One day when I was, I'll tell you about two stories before I actually became squad staff. One day, and I mentioned this earlier in the video. One day I woke up and I was just playing, and I was playing fucking Smite at the time. So there was like a drought in video games. It must have been. But I was playing Smite of all games. I'm gonna kill myself. I was playing Smite, and I was talking to one of my friends there at the time, and I was like, this guy like seems pretty sad, like normal, unusually sad. And I was like, hey dude, are you okay? And he was like, I don't know, I've been thinking about like hurting myself. And I was like, damn, that's wild. Because that's wild. So that's crazy. And it was kind of interesting at the time to hear that, because I remember back when I was in middle school, I'd helped this girl who was like cutting, and that was like a really like kind of like maturing moment for myself, to kind of like be a friend with her, because she really didn't have friends, and a lot of like rumors got spread about her and stuff. And I was like, okay, like this is gonna be another time in my life where I help someone out. So I knew from stuff that was said at meetings, that if there was someone who was showing like signs of suicide, like suicidal tendencies, that you should go to someone in senior leadership, right? And I looked on Discord and I saw or probably on Xbox, either one. I saw the only person that was online at the time was XGN Ish, and Ish will come back into the story later on. But Ish, like I got into a party with him real quick, and I told him the situation. He was like, okay, leave the party, I'm gonna go invite this person, and I'm gonna deal with him. I was like, okay, cool, awesome. And 15 minutes go by, and I see on Discord they announced that he got like the senior leadership, they announced that like he had gotten membership revoked. And I was like, huh, very interesting. So I got back in the party with Ish, and he explained to me that I didn't know this part of it, but when someone is feeling suicidal, XGN doesn't want to take liability, and this is like at the time before the suicide policy that I talked about earlier in the video, that they didn't want to take any responsibility or liability, and you're supposed to just MR them on the spot. And I was like, I thought about it. I was like, is that right to do? And I was like, huh. Maybe that's the smarter thing to do. Instead of trying to help someone, you should just, like as a business, you should like cut them off, right? Now later on down the line, when I gained some more morality, I was like, dude, that was really fucked up. But like, yeah, I never saw that person again in my life. And that was kind of just a thing. With that, where it's like, oh yeah, you got MR'd, like nobody wants to talk to you anymore, like you must have did something bad. So fast forward, I'll tell you the second story. I woke up one morning and I got invited to a party by XGN Rizzy, and I'll be talking about him extensively throughout this story. And Rizzy at the time I believe was a founder. And he had told me that, oh dude, all of these people just left and tried to poach all these people, and they're like in a clan now and they're blacklisted. I was like, what the fuck? And then like one of those people that were included was the person who had trained me in, like, initially. And I was like, damn, that's wild. Anyways. And he was like, yeah, just if you can you like remove these people like off your friends list. I was like, oh yeah, sure. Is there anything else you need? He was like, no, I'm good. And Rizzy, by the way, he's Australian. So imagine this, I'm saying like his lines like Australian, because I'm not gonna butcher an accent. But he's like, oh no, there's nothing like I need. It's like, you know, you're good. I was like, okay, cool, and I left. I was thinking about it. I was like, damn, like, what possessed them to do this? And it kind of was really interesting because, and I'll get to why it was really interesting, but like, it wasn't just people from this division that I was in. It was from people from across the community that like literally staged a coup. Like, they took like an entire division worth of people, like 500, 600 people, and they poached them. Like, poaching as in like coercing someone into joining your clan, right? I was like, damn, like, that's crazy. And I learned later on that they had done that because they were just fed up with leadership. And they went and made their own clan. And for a while, they were doing pretty good. And then all of a sudden, it just collapsed and there was nothing left. So I was like, okay, interesting. So I guess fast forward like a month or so, I turned 15. So I'm like, okay, cool, I'm great. And at this time, I'm also like deepening my voice to sound like, I guess, how it is now. Like, actually, when I've hit puberty fully, I was deepening my voice like a lot, and like a lot of people thought I was like I just turned 18 actually instead of 15 because I was still like lying, right? And when I turned 15, I believe I was an MSG Master Sergeant, and then I ranked up again to lieutenant, and then I was a captain, right? And around the time that I was a captain, around April of 2017, what happens usually when a squad is like flourishing and there's a lot of good things happening, the squad splits, right? So it can grow more, because I believe the maximum during the time that I was there for a squad, you could only have 125 people in it. So it split because there was so many people and so many good staff. So when it split, Nexus, the squad that I was in, split off and made another squad called Mercury. And I was placed into Mercury with a good friend of mine, Illusions, who was the general, and I was made first captain. Or I was made like major shortly after. Actually, no, I wasn't. I was first captain, and then the major left, and then I was placed as major. And I was first captain for a little bit, and about like, it may have been like 2 weeks after the squad split, my friend Illusions, my friend Drug Free, and my friend Pretty Girl, who were the gens of the new generals of Nexus in Mercury, and then the colonel as well now of Nexus, they left. And they left with a bunch of other people from Nexus and Mercury. And what had happened is Rizzy, who was then the division leader at the time now, over TH, Triple Helix, he was like, okay, So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna convince the major that was with you in Mercury to go and transfer now to Nexus and go and help them promote him up to a colonel, or promote him straight to a gen, actually, sorry, and skip the process and try and keep both squads running, right? And what you're gonna do is I'm gonna promote you to major, and we're gonna put a co-founder over you. Co-foes are basically like the watchers of a certain squad. They're assigned a squad to watch over. So I'm gonna put this co-fo over you to like be the acting general, right, of the squad. I was like, okay, cool. And I got placed with Dub, XGN Dub. And at the time, Dub wasn't, I believe Dub is like still in XGN, I believe, maybe, and he's like in Council of Elders, which is like kind of like a retirement spot. Dub at the time was like ass. He was really ass. Like he didn't have enough, he wasn't spending enough time with the squad. He wasn't spending enough time with me to try and like help me out, develop my skills. And he just wasn't around, and he wasn't like really doing much. So I was just carrying the squad. And after Rizzy had noticed this, and the first time that I complained, he was like, yeah, I've noticed this. Let me deal with it. And he talked to Dub, and things like went back to normal for a little bit, and he was like around, and then it kind of like fell through. By that time though, we like Mercury and Nexus were like bleeding, essentially. There were bleeding members, bleeding staff. There wasn't a lot of people, right? And what usually happens then is if two squads are not doing too well, they'll merge to like help a squad from just failing entirely, right? So what had happened is Rizzy had decided, okay, let's just go ahead and merge these squads back together. And it was between me and this other guy who was in Nexus called Lil Poppy. And I knew from what the division staff had told me, they were trying to decide on who was going to be the general of Nexus, when because we merged back and it became Nexus again. They were deciding on who they wanted to make the general, and they were looking at me, who didn't have a lot of time under his belt. Like, again, I was in the community for like 5 months, I think. No, 6 months, something like that. Yeah, 6 months. And they were like, you think he's gonna be a good general, you know, being only here in 6 months? He's good and everything, but like, he's only been here for 6 months. And then looking at Lil Poppy, he was like, he's not really doing much, he's not really good, but he's been here for a while, like longer than Kiwi's. I was like, learning like about this later, I was like, damn, that's crazy. So I guess what had happened was they decided that the best course of action was to make me general. And then I became the general of Nexus. And Poppy became my colonel, right? Now, during this time, right before Mercury was like, right before Nexus even split, there was actually a div split, like TH split into 2 different divisions. And there's a tradition in XGN that with the Helix divisions, that they kind of keep the same similar name. So what had happened is with Triple Helix TH, it split off and made Double Helix DH. And it's like that because it's like a tradition because TH Triple Helix was the first division ever in XGN, if I'm remembering that correctly. And it was also the thing that Corey started, like, specifically. So that's why it was like that. And in the other division, I had made this friend called Blizzy. And he was a G. Like, this guy was, like, amazing. He was so cool. And, like, I still have him on my friends list to today. And I don't know if he knows that I do what I do, but, like, he was a really cool guy. And I, like, hit me up, nigga. Like, just, like, let's do something. Let's do something. I see you, like, on Xbox a lot now. Like, he was a really cool guy. A lot of stuff happened with him later on in the story, but I'm not gonna, like, talk about that really. But I made a good friend with him, and he was in DH and I was in TH, and he eventually started to run a squad called Silver, right? And one thing as well with the Helixes, except for the only exception was Nexus at the time, in the junior squad, the 100. Like, all of the squads were named after elements and, like, metals and stuff. So, like, there was, like, Xenon, there was Mercury, there was Krypton, there was Silver, there was fuck, what's another one? I can't remember, but there was a lot of different, there was like different squads that were different metals, and like they all just kind of had history, you know. But anyways, I'm a general now over Nexus, and the squad starts popping, and I'm 15 years old. And I'm sitting here and I'm dealing with different people and I'm talking to different people, and I'm like, holy shit, I love this. This is amazing. This is like so fun. And I sat there and I looked at the growth that I was producing leading the squad, and I was like, this is really cool. Like, I love this I love this want that I have of wanting to help people. I love this want that I have to improve the community. And I can directly influence that now because I'm a general and I'm leading a squad. So I was like, damn, this is really cool. And I kind of, that's like, I had already fallen in love with like XGN in general, the concept of it, like, before, but this is where I kind of developed my love and passion for actually wanting to improve the community. And I still, to this day, still can't get rid of that want to actually improve the whole scene in general. And it's like, that's kind of like a main reason why I made this video in the first place. It's like, it's really cool. Like, everything's really cool. You meet a lot of interesting people and you help out a lot of really interesting people and you develop them and you watch them grow. And it's really cool. And it kind of gave me the motivation that I have now to get into like leadership. And I wanted to get into business because of what XGN taught me. And I think that's really cool. But there was a lot of cool people I met. It was really good, and I built up the squad a lot. During that time, I met my best friend now, Mag, right? And during that time, I wanted to get Mag promoted to Major, right? And, you know, I got that done, but then me and him were discussing and we were thinking like, okay, this guy Lil Poppy, who's the colonel now, this guy isn't doing shit. Like, I'm doing this all on my own. It's like me and Mag, really, like, you know, and he can't really do like as much as I can. Mag can't, but like Poppy can. And it's like, where is he? And I talked to him several times, and I'm like, yo, like, I need you to show up more. Like, where are you? He's like, yeah, I get it. And it got to a point where I called for his demotion because I didn't feel that he was really doing anything. So when stuff like that happens, because they're squad leaders, right? You have to get it approved by different people within the division. I had to get it approved by my Kofo, and then I had to get it approved by Rizzy. And I had talked to Rizzy about it, and he had said, yeah, I kind of feel that way too. Like, I don't really think that he's going to be a good colonel anymore. And, you know, I was like, okay. So all I needed really was my Kofo on board. And he just was not around. He just wasn't around to help me out. And really with being a co-founder, like, if you're not helping out your squad, your general will tell on you. Like, you need your... Back in the day, and then further on, you really need your Kofo around to help you to not only make decisions, but also to approve decisions within your squad. Like, there was a lot of times where I needed to do something in the squad, and I had to wait and wait and wait for me to get a response or to get like an actual conversation started. And that sucked. And what had happened is, after a while, that Kofo was just not around. And I was sitting there, and I couldn't demote this person. I couldn't demote my colonel without the Kofo being there. So the founder at the time, who was over those co-founders, who was Kratos, right? Named Kratos. He got into a party with me, and he was like, okay, let's just fucking do this. Like, this Kofo is not being legit. Let's just get this demotion over with. So what happened? I demoted him. And he was like, okay, I'm done with being in staff. Like, I don't want to do this. So he was like, I was just gonna demote him to like being a captain. But like, he said, like, no, I don't want to be in staff anymore. So he went to a staff sergeant. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. So basically I tried to help Mag out, who was my major at the time. And then I had him promoted to colonel. And then we started developing a lot of different staff. And we had a really, really good squad. And it was kind of, I was a general for like almost 2 months, not even 2 months. And usually generals will stay generals for, I've seen people stay generals for years. An average would be like 6 months or so, but I was general for less than 2 months. And Rizzy noticed how well I was doing as a gen, and he said, I kind of want to promote you to a co-founder. And I was like, shit, like, okay. So I said, okay, before I do that though, I want to help Mag so that when I leave, he can go ahead and split his squad. And he said, okay, that's fine. Like, I can give you like a couple weeks, like, and help out with that. So I did. And I helped him, and it was like really good. We had like, usually what they recommend back then, what they recommended for squad splits is you need to have like 6 MSGs, Master Sergeants. You needed to have 4 lieutenants and 4 captains. So when it splits in half, actually, yeah, when it splits in half, everybody's divvied up equally, right? And there's like a good amount. And we had over that. Like there was like, we had like 8 MSGs, we had like 6 lieutenants, and we had almost 8 captains, right? I think it was like 7. So I was like, this is a really good squad. Mag is gonna have an easy time splitting this. So I was like, okay, Rizzy, like I'm good. Like you can promote me if you want, whenever you want to. And he was like, okay, you're a Kofo. And I was like, okay. And I got placed over Nexus for the time being. And I was like, okay. He was like, you're gonna oversee the squad split. And then everything went to shit. Everything went to shit. And a whole bunch of people left. And we lost like 30 members, right, out of Nexus. Like all at once. And it was because the major that I had promoted, just as soon as I left, or as soon as I got promoted, just had like the biggest ego, like charge ever. And like, it was really bad. It was really, really bad. And Mag was like really upset. And I think to this day, he could still blame himself for like not splitting that squad when I put it in such a good position. And it was just interesting to watch stuff fold out like that, because I hadn't seen something like that where something I had did directly influenced something negatively. And when I got promoted, it influenced negatively where people left. It wasn't necessarily my fault directly, but it still happened because of something I did. So I was like, damn, this sucks. So I was a Kofo for a while. And I was getting nothing but praise from all of the generals that I was over. I got placed over like 4 different squads at the time that were in TH. And being a Kofo was really cool. Now, this is where we start to get into the really negative parts into the story. And it's gonna involve Rizzy a lot. So, necessarily not a lot of people that probably are in the board of directors of XGN that remember Rizzy and really talk to him a lot, including Corey, know a lot of the things that he said and he did while he was in TH that frankly was heinous. And it was to a point where he would be like flirting with people that were members. He would be telling people off in parties that were in staff. He would be insulting people. He would be insanely disrespectful to a lot of different people. He was very short to anger. And he made up a lot of rules in TH that was outside of the code of conduct for XGN. And later on in the future, that came to bite us in the ass, because we were getting asked, why do you do something? Why are you the only division to do something like this, like so differently than other divisions? And we were like, we've been doing this since Rizzy was there. and they never really believed us. And that was really disheartening, because for them not to believe us, because I remember around December, I was put over the junior squad as a co-founder, and the junior squad was made up of a general who was like in his late 20s, and I believe a colonel who was like the 14, 13, something like that. Squeaker. But all these people that were in the squad were like, you know, children, right? And what we were tasked with as co-founders from Rizzy is he told us, hey, I want you to do a security check, a squad-wide security check, and message all of these people in Xbox and see if you can get a response out of them. And if you can't, then mark it down on this spreadsheet, on these Google Sheets, right? And I sat there, and I was supposed to do this. I was just supposed to direct people on doing this, like the squad staff, the senior squad staff, the general and colonel. I wasn't supposed to do any of it, and I was supposed to get them together so they can do this. And all of a sudden, as soon as I did that, the general just disappeared, and he was nowhere to be found. And his colonel, who was this child, didn't necessarily know. He was too overwhelmed what to do. And this is kind of like where I go back on what I was saying earlier with like XGN, like Corey, why did you allow children to be making these decisions and to be dealing with grown ass people? It's really weird. Like, and then it's weird to the point where, why would this be a thing you want and a thing you want to keep and flourish? It's like, I get like, okay, yeah, you want to get someone hooked on XGN when they're young, like me. But like, most kids aren't mature enough to deal with that. Most kids aren't mature enough to deal with another kid wanting to kill themselves. Most kids aren't ready, mature enough to be able to deal with a guy freaking ODing, and like his friends in the squad are scared that he's dead in his apartment right now. Like, and this is stuff that I had to deal with as a minor, not as like, you know, 13, 14, but still 15, 16, like dealing with grown-ass men like trauma dumping about how their life is so horrible. And the worst part about it is I can't do anything about it. I can't help him. I can't fix it because he's in this depressive state that nothing matters anymore. It makes you, like, for someone like me who wants to help out everybody he can, it sucks a lot that you don't know how to help this person. It sucks even more because when you're a minor, you're not going to necessarily have the brain capacity to think that this is out of my hands. Like, this is not my fault. I couldn't do anything more. But me, I took all of that brunt. It's just, it's a thing that never has been actually talked about really in the community, and specifically from Corey, never been talked about how and why he did it like that. And I don't even know, I think XGN is still 15 and up you can join. I don't think they have junior squads anymore. But like, the majority of communities are only 18 plus for a very good reason. And a lot of people have accused Corey of very heinous stuff like pedophilia. And they've used that notion of there being junior squads in the community as a way of facilitating that argument. And it's really only hindered him. I don't necessarily know why he didn't get rid of that earlier than what he did. Because it caused him more drama than what was worth, you know? So going back, right? When I was tasked to do the security check with this junior squad, I was like, okay, cool. But the gen left, like not left, but like MIA, like he was nowhere to be found. Like messages, no reply. And I was telling Rizzy this, and he was like, I don't care, just do it, just get it done. And I was like, what about the general disappearing? You're not necessarily getting what I'm saying. You're just so worried about this fucking security check. What about this general that is completely MIA? But so I went and did this security check, and I didn't want to put too much work on this colonel, even though I should have, because, you know, well, I should have because he's a colonel, right? I shouldn't have because he's a child. And I you know, I gave him and the first captain, like, okay, here's like 50 names for you, and split them up evenly and just message them and see if they message you back. Like, and we got like a month for them to message back. And then I took the brunt of it, and I did like 70 people, and I messaged them, and I had to keep track of all of those people. And I did, right? So I did all this. I was figuring out, I was talking to them daily. These children, has this X person messaged you back? Is there like any update on the spreadsheet that you can make? And they were like, no. So it turns out, you know, like it turns like Christmas time. It's like December 2017. And I'm sitting there, and Rizzy invites me, and he's in a party with Dub, who was the founder at the time, ready to be a co-division leader. And they sit there and they bring me in, and they're saying to me that, like, what the fuck is wrong with you, essentially? Like, are you stupid? What are you doing? Why didn't you get the security check done? And I'm like, do you not have access to the sheets? Like, what's going on? And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden Rizzy says, well, Legion, I'll have to bleep that. Well, actually, I'll just redo it. Well, the general just DM'd me and said that you didn't even tell him that there's a security check that they were like supposed to do. And I was like, what? We have like a whole group chat that he's in that we've been talking about this for the past month. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? It's like, yeah, you told me that you didn't even tell him. I was like, well, I did. And I did the security checks. And there's a sheet to back that up. And he was like, I don't believe you. And he insinuated that I copied all of those names that were on the squad sheet, that was like all the names that were the people that were in at the time, and made a fake sheet and just like marked down random names, and I didn't do anything. Believing completely 100% about this general. I sat there and I'm like, you insane? Like, and what was really interesting around that time is around that same time, another co-founder had gotten promoted to founder, right? And before then, another co-fo had gotten promoted to founder. And both times I just asked Rizzy, I was like, hey, you didn't really pick me to be promoted, like, is there anything I can improve on? And he's like, no, just keep on going. And I was like, okay, cool. But this conversation that we had in this party after this general thing happened, where he just lied about me, right? Rizzy told me straight up that, like, I'm not gonna promote you to a founder, like, ever, and because you're just like, you're not doing anything, and you're not benefiting anybody. Like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, you're the same person who took me from a major to a COFO in less than 4 months. And you're telling me that I'm not going to benefit you when every squad until now I've done amazing. You've kept telling me I'm doing amazing. But I'm not benefiting you now all of a sudden? And I learned later on, well, not later on, but like a month later, when Mag got promoted over me. Remember Mag? He was, I was promoted after him, or I was a COFO when he was a gen. I was a COFO when he was a gen. I was a gen when he was a first captain, like 3 ranks under me. And he just got promoted to founder, the next rank over COFO, before me. And a week after he had gotten promoted, Mag was in a party with me, and he liked to always like spill the details with Rizzy, because I had a sneaking suspicion that Rizzy just fucking hated me all of a sudden. And he told me that Rizzy said that he would never promote me as long as he's division leader. Straight up. And he didn't give a reason for it. And he just said he's going to be a forever COFO. He's never going to get promoted. And I sat there, and after doing all this work and him gaslighting me into thinking that I believe that he's telling me that I'm doing good, and everybody else that I'm working with is telling me that I'm doing good. All of a sudden, this comes out that he would just never promote me if he was the division leader. And combined with his shitty attitude and the way that he talked to me, genuinely then and there, from I guess September of 2017 to until he got promoted, like around March of 2018, I was really depressed, like borderline suicidal, because of this person who lives in Australia, who is dictating and controlling if I ever proceed in this community that I love so much. He said to me in that same conversation when we were talking about that gen lying about me, he said to me, if I was to ever try and transfer to a different division, he would make sure that I would get membership revoked. And I said I was like borderline like crying at that point. I was like, what do I do? What will I ever be able to progress? Because I didn't see really TH, like Triple Helix, like going into a position where Rizzy would ever be up for promotion director. I was like, am I just stuck now? Because he has the pool. He has the connections with all the different people in senior leadership. They all love him. I don't see why he couldn't get me membership revoked. I don't see why he couldn't make something up. And I sat there and I was like, okay, fuck it. Like, and I was just really depressed, and I thought that I was just worthless, like in that division. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't have any help. Nobody could really help me at the time, and that lasted like that until Rizzy finally got promoted, like at the end of March of the following year. And then Dub became the division leader, and shortly afterwards Mag became the co-division leader. Now, shortly after Dub, I believe literally it was like the night of, Dub pulled me into a party with Mag, and he said to me that he apologizes because he knows that Rizzy, like he told me that I know that Rizzy treated you like really bad, and like you don't deserve it, and you didn't deserve it because you're a really good Kofo. And I want to apologize for that because I sat there and I let him do it because I knew that I needed to stay on his good side so I could get promoted as fast as I could. And I sat there and I felt validated. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm starting to like tear up. And I felt validated that there was someone other than Mag, who was like my best friend, so he was going to vouch for me either way, that realized that I was being mistreated by like the teacher's pet of XGN, and nobody saw it. There's there's just so many times, like in our DMs, I'm looking back, like with Rizzy, that like you can tell that like he didn't trust me. He didn't want me to ever improve necessarily. And it sucks. It really does suck. When you have someone like that and nobody necessarily will believe you or what he did because they have a good relationship with them. So also at the time, I want to also bring up, I was a Kofo over this one person named Sinister. Yeah. Damn, that's wild. This is horrible, terrible. I was a Kofo over this guy named Sinister, who was a major at the time when I was a Kofo. And I got like switched off and then switched back when he became a general of the squad. And I got passed up a promotion over him when he became founder before I did, is what I'm saying. With Rizzy around. And I'm sitting there, and I'll talk about Sinister in a little bit later. But like, finally, Rizzy gets promoted, and Dub becomes div leader, and you know, he talks to me and everything, and I feel validated, and I'm like, cool, awesome, great. And we start kind of get TH moving. All of a sudden, we start to get a lot of heat from people that are in senior leadership about how we're doing stuff differently than other divisions. And now, since it's not working, now we're getting in trouble. Because when it was Rizzy that was doing these things, it was working. But when we did the same thing, just because time passes, things change, now we're getting in trouble. And I remember, there are these things called God, what are they called? I think they're called division meetings, something like that, where it's essentially all of the senior leadership giving like updates across the community, and then you're supposed to, as division staff, you're supposed to pass that down, and those are what the squad leaders are supposed to use for meeting notes, like based off your meeting notes, right? I remember during one of these meetings, Hells, who I talked about earlier, said specifically, and we all knew who he was talking about, because earlier, like in the past couple days, he was like reaming on Dub and Mag for like different stuff that we were doing in TH. And he said, well, there's been this division that's been making their own rules recently, and we just want to remind everybody that you can make rules in your divisions, but they need to be based off of the code of conduct. And we all like shot to our DMs like between each other, and we were like, this nigga subtweeting us. Like this nigga's subtweeting us live right now. So we felt like we went through a lot of backlash. And what's really interesting is Rizzy, after he got promoted to director, like a month and a half after, he got put into a board of directors position. Like, Corey and all of the board of directors made up a new position for him called the CIA. I don't even know what it's called. What it's like, chief informational something. But he dealt with like all of the Discord and shit, like everything regarding Discord he was in charge of. And he got that board role, and we're sitting here like, so all the things that you've taught us and all of the pain and shit that you put us through, they just don't know, and they just don't care, and they'll just put him into a whole role, a whole board spot, when he doesn't deserve that shit. When he made us worse, essentially, when he negatively affected us. And I'm like, damn, that sucks. I finally got my redemption though when he left the community. And nobody's heard of him. Nobody's heard from Rizzy for 4 years at this point. And nobody necessarily knows where he went. He just kind of disappeared one day. And I think later on, Dub contacted him and said some things, and they were talking for a bit. And it was just, he got tired of it. And, you know, he wanted to move on with his life, apparently. I was like, damn, that sucks anyways. So I was like, okay, thank the Lord he left. Amazing, great, awesome. So I'm gonna, because this is already like an hour, like I'm recording this part just itself. I'm gonna skip forward for a bit. So Rizzy ends up leaving, and we get all the way to April of 2019. And TH ends up splitting again. And Sinister, Sin, we'll call him, ends up being a division leader in DH again. And dude, it's so cloudy now. I believe I became the division leader then. At that time, I obviously know I was a division leader. I was division leader for a while. I don't know. I just don't know if it was then or because I don't remember exactly. Okay, now I remember. Okay. So I was the div lead, or sorry, Mag. Damn, what happened again? Okay, so let me explain it. The timeline might be a little bit wonky, and obviously, whatever, it's okay. But Mag ends up going back to school, and he leaves the community, right? There's also a time where, actually, I'll tell two stories, actually, before we even get to this. There was a time where they actually MR'd Mag because they thought that he was subtweeting them on Twitter, like XGN, like the board. They thought that he was subtweeting them on Twitter, and when he got MR'd, the entire like division blew up. Like people getting muted because like they're calling the board idiots. Like you're so stupid. This is such a stupid, horrible decision that you've made. And I'm sitting there and I'm talking to one of the board members. I believe it's probably Jaeger. In our div staff chat in the server, in our Discord server, and I'm saying, this is you've made a wrong decision, and if you don't reverse this, I'm leaving as well. You guys have made the wrong decision. He did not subtweet you, and you just kicked him out for no reason. And we were telling him that, and Corey was reading as well, and then all of a sudden, an hour later, and this was like during our meeting with the squad leaders as well. While this happened, an hour later, they reversed the MR, and Mag got put back in, and it was a very interesting thing. Because they never said fucking sorry. They never did. Because they overreacted for a tweet that they thought he was subtweeting them with. Subtweeting, right? Something that I talk about them like Corey and like Callie doing like all the time. And Callie's obviously not a part of this, but Corey does like all the time. It's like, so you're gonna MR him when you have no idea 100% that he's talking about you or any of the other board, and he could just be talking about anybody, which he was. I was like, damn, like you made a stupid decision. That was really stupid of you. Like, but anyways, that's one story. Another story. This is a thing that I'm gonna that I referred to earlier. So one day, one night I was just playing and I got an invite to a party, and a squad leader was telling me that one of their captains, I believe at the time, they had reason to suspect that they like had just OD'd, or just like they just took like a bunch of pills and they don't know how they are, like what they're doing. And I was like, okay. I was sitting there. I don't remember what rank I was. I may have been a div leader at the time. I said, okay, let me get one of my kofos at the time who was part of web ops, who was like an admin on the forums. And I told him, hey, and this is something that we're taught as well. This is something that we're supposed to do. I said, hey, can you grab this guy's IP and trace his address for me, so we can call the local authorities and report that he's probably ODing right now? He was like, okay, sure. And this is something that not only has happened like a lot of times with just stuff in TH in general, where people on the forums have had to pull IPs of people and trace their address. It's happened all across the community. It's happened multiple times where that's had to happen. So when people have the accusations that people in XGN have doxed them, DDoSed them, swatted them, all this different types of stuff, it's like when niggas on the forums and like anybody that's in senior leadership can just look up anybody in the community's IP, then it's you know, that can be from some reasons for suspicion, you know. So it's like, okay, that's where you got that accusation from. Obviously I'm not making the accusation, I've just heard it. So but anyways, that was another story. Again, I was a minor at the time, dealing with a grown-ass man swallowing a whole bunch of pills, and he actually did OD, but the people actually reached there in time to save him. And I don't think that was probably even talked about like at all, like, because he really didn't need to. I don't think probably Corey would know about any of that at all. You don't really need to, but anyways, that was a story. Anyways, we get to div leader, right? And this is like April 2019, yeah, something like that. I can't even get the date straight. And me and Sinister are div leads together, and TH and well, okay, DH had problems and TH had problems, and they were all two separate problems. And I sat there, and well, me and Sin like to talk like every day about that, right? About what we could do. We sat there and we talked, and we were like, I don't know, we might have to like merge. And I think at the time our acting like director over us was, I want to say Blue Dream. He's in, I believe, KSI, or not KSI, sorry, TSB at the time, right now. But Blue Dream, and I'll talk about Blue Dream in a little bit. But Blue Dream was a person who was a div leader when Rizzy was, director when Rizzy was, and he had to deal with a lot of things with Rizzy was. And he talked to us later on, and he said, yeah, Rizzy was a dickhead. And nobody really believed me. So, like, more validation, obviously. But anyways, Blue was over us, and it ended up where, yeah, like, we ended up merging, right? However, they decided that they, instead of like demoting one of me or Sim and making us the co-div leader and, like, you know, whatever, and one of us the div lead, they ended up promoting Sim to director, and they merged back to TH and DH. I was like, this is cool, you know, great, awesome, you know, good for Sim. You know, I'm friends with Sin. You know, great for him. And I had even offered, because I had thought, like, I had thought that I wasn't necessarily qualified enough to be a div lead. I thought that Sin was doing better, but then Sin also said to me, like, when we were talking to Blue Dream, he was like, no, I think I should be demoted. I was like, no, I think I should be demoted. And it was like a back and forth thing. It was like, Blue was like subtly hinting, like, oh, I hope like none of you do. Like, I was like, okay, whatever. So CH and DH merge, stuff starts to grow and everything. And we then fast forward to December 2019. And Sin's been a director for a while now, and Mag is still MIA, and Ish at this point is vice president of XGN, and Blue Dream is like on the board. And yeah, I believe Oreo was on the board as well, I believe. And then he got MR'd for some reason. I have to think about that for a while, but I believe he got MR'd for a bit. Anyways, mid-December, like for the past couple months, I'm in like lots of talks now with people, like Blue and Sin and sometimes Ish, that, like, man, these niggas are like not wanting to change at all. Like, this leadership, this board and stuff, they do not want to try anything new. And one of those new things that they brought up was getting rid of the blacklist. And that was something that Sin and Ish and Blue pushed for a lot. They were kind of like in their own little party, like kind of voting for the same things, like type shit. But that was something that they pushed for a lot, was getting rid of the blacklist, because the blacklist at the time, they thought that it was really controlling, and that it really wasn't benefiting us anymore, because like not a lot of people were doing shit, and it would be better for us as a community to just make friends with these people instead of like keeping to rumors and starting rumors and doing all this different shit. And I was like, yeah, that's a really good idea. Like, I'll support that. Like, you guys should definitely do that. Like, keep pushing for that. And they didn't want to budge on it. Like, Corey and all of the board, they didn't want to budge on it. And it got to the point where so many things just started to get shut down, like ideas and changes and stuff, where Ish and Blue got really fed up. And they got really annoyed. And essentially what happened, late into December 2019, Ish and Blue and Sin and mostly Blue and Ish got me and Mag into a party and said, we're thinking of starting our own community. We're thinking about like leaving and making our own community. I was like, I mean, is it really worth it necessarily? Like, are we just going to be another community that just falls like 2 months later? He's like, yeah, I mean, no, we got like a plan and everything. And I was like, you know, whatever. And Mag was like, let's do it. Let's do it. Mag was like, okay, I'm on board. Like, I've been tired of XGN for a while. Like, and he had. I was like, you know, I'd gotten all the way to a division leader. And I was sitting there like, damn, like, it's taken me 3 years to get to this point. Do I really want to give it all up? And I sat there and thought, and I was like, all of my friends are gonna leave. And they have the better ideas at the moment than like current board and current Corey. Is it gonna be better if I leave with them and I go with them? And I came to the decision that it is the better idea. Now, for anybody that was part of the board during that time, and Corey specifically, I would take it back. That was a big mistake for me. That was the biggest mistake I've ever made. I should have stayed, and I know right after we had done that, I decided to leave. I got Sin on board. And that was another mistake that I kind of blame myself nowadays, but I'm still going to blame the gaming communities, the scene on this in just a bit. Hold on. But I blame Sin, like, leaving on me and Mag pressuring him. Or not pressuring him necessarily, but like saying like, oh yeah, like, you guys are not having a good time. Like, why don't you just leave, like, with us and do this? He was like, yeah, like, you know, that makes sense. But I'm sitting there and we're planning this all out. And we're planning basically to stage a coup. If you remember during this part of the video, I'd mentioned something earlier about that specifically. About how there was a clan when I was in like a sergeant that split off from XGN, that staged a coup and took like 600, 700 members. And that clan was called UGR. We were doing the same exact thing, like down to the T. Like, high-ranking member in the community, couple board members, like 4 different divisions. Well, it was much bigger than UGR, but of a coup. But we were like, a lot of people were tasked with like, okay, yeah, go and talk to your leaders that you know and trust, and tell them that we're doing this, and ask them if they want to be a part of it. And I was like, I guess, like, okay. So me and Mag and Sin ran around and we talked to a bunch of people, and we were like, hey, I'll tell you exactly what we said, because we didn't want to sound like we were poaching or anything. We said, hey, so we're gonna leave. We're gonna leave the community and we're starting up this gaming community. When we leave, if you want to stay and join us, then you can. If not, whatever. It doesn't matter. We just wanted to tell you. And most people, like 90% of the people, were like, okay, I want to come with you. Because they knew that it was me and Mag, and anybody from that time period would know that me and Mag as a duo was like unstoppable for building a fucking division. And they knew that also that Sim was coming around. A lot of people like Sim. So they were like, oh yeah, I'll join. I'll come with you. And then we had a couple people that were like, oh, I'm iffy, you know, I'm like, you know, I'm not sure right now. And we were like, okay, like it doesn't matter. Like we're just coming to tell you. So it's like the 30th, the 29th or 30th of December. And our plan backfires. One of the people in it, it was rumored that it came from one of our people that we asked, like me, Mag, and Sen, one of our people that we asked. They had went and told one of the board members about this, and we got outed. And we had planned to do this like January 1st to like pull away, but we got sent out like a few days early, and we weren't necessarily ready. And we made a really bad decision. So we decided, since we're not ready yet, Ish and Blue decided to hijack the account that owned all of the Discord servers for XGN. And they took them. And all of the servers was broadcasting. This is next now. Next generation. We called ourselves Next Generation. NEX. This is Next Generation now. If you want to leave, you can. But list of leaders, all of these leaders are staying. And we pulled... It was around 12 to 1,300 people away, and it was a huge, it was insane. The amount of anguish that we got, backlash from doing that, was insane. Now, it would have been fine, I think personally, if we would have just left and made a community. I don't think anybody would have probably hated us at all. You know, probably Corey would have been like, oh, you know, frickin', oh man, Ish left, my vice president of the community. Damn, that's crazy. You know, that sucks. Fuck. But then, if we kept with our same messaging, with like, hey, Nex wants to be the bridge of peace between different communities, then like, I think it would have probably worked out. But since we decided to do that, it started our reputation with like omega negative karma in the Fallout universe. And everybody hated us. Everybody. And we got threats from every clan and community saying like, oh, we got spies in your community, we're gonna take it down from the inside, you should have never messed with all these different communities. And we had talked to different communities, and they had said like, oh, you should come and like merge with us, if not, then we're just gonna go ahead and take you down. And it's like, no. Like, I don't know who you think you are, but like, we're just not gonna like let you do that. Like, I don't know. But a lot of that hate was kind of facilitated right around the same time that all of a sudden XGN, XS, Exiled Inc. decided, you know what? Let's be best friends with Hydra. The group of clans that XGN made the most wildest claims about the people. Like saying the most heinous things about the members, the leaders, everything. And all of the rumors were just encouraged or never brought down, you know, never talked about, you know. It was always like, oh, frickin', like, someone would say, oh yeah, TSB eats kids. And it's like, nobody would bat an eye. And The thing is, as soon as we got into Next and everything, and we started proclaiming this message that we were trying to spread in XGN, it happened. The same message of like wanting peace and wanting communities to talk more to each other and not having their doors closed to other communities. And the biggest thing, eliminating the blacklist from all of the communities, it happened. Every single clan, one by one, got rid of their blacklist. Now, they'll tell you, and I don't blame them. They'll tell you, oh yeah, we made that decision ourselves. when it's very, you can't gaslight me, you can gaslight others. It was very evident that like people that you had in XGN before, the directors that were influencing these decisions, like Ish and Blue and Sin, were pushing for this, and y'all didn't bat an eye. And then as soon as Next came around, y'all wanted to change that. Y'all wanted to be friends with everybody. Y'all wanted to get rid of the blacklist. It's like, huh, very interesting. But they won't credit us at all, and I don't blame them, really. So Next is doing fine for the first like month or so, and we're just any other regular gaming community. And then like month 2 happens, and we get into a bunch of drama within. And there was a certain person who, if you know, you were lucky enough to hear earlier in the video me talk about the events team. There was a certain person who was the head of the events team while I was there. And if you know who I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking about. But we had gotten into some drama with them. And they split off from us. There was a whole bunch of people that were with that person that split off from Next and made their own community. And there was a lot of attacks against Next, combined with a lot of other people threatening to attack, and a lot of other people shunning us and not talking to us and excluding us from every single conversation. And it combined until about March of 2020. You know, Next transitioned into an esports organization. We thought, you know, this is a pretty good idea, you know. Why not? Why not do this? By that time, Blue had left. And I believe he had went to TSB. And we started to have a good relationship then with TSB. Stuff happened, you know, blah blah blah. But we tried to like really keep up this esports organization. We had a pretty good league team. We had a pretty good rainbow team. And I was in charge of Nex's like media side, and I took care of like there was different YouTubers and streamers that were under Nex. I took care of them. And then 3 months later, it died. Nex died. Kinda. Like, you know, everybody just kind of backed off. And Ish took a back seat to everything. And like eventually, I believe, Oreo came back and took over for Ish. Or it was Mag. I can't remember. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Doesn't exist anymore. But people were kind of just like stuck in saying like, oh, Nex sucks. Nex like gaming community. Like, we're not a gaming community, bro. We're an esports organization. We're an esports organization. Like, what are you talking about? And we started to like try and alienate ourselves from that whole scene of people. And it worked for a bit, but still people like still lumped us in. It sucked. That kind of sucked. But it was really cool. It was really hard, but it was really cool. And Next was a really good idea. And around June, when it kind of capsized, you know, that was kind of it. You know, and then finally, it had to be God. Damn, it had to be like around February of 2021. Next finally like disbanded. So remember, yeah, it had to be around that time. It was dead. And before Next disbanded, in October, I actually went back to XGN. And they accepted me after being denied many times. But they finally accepted me. And I was put into WAG, W-A-G, one of the divisions that we like took to Next. And it was really interesting to see because it was a really, really small division. And it used to be really, really big. So it was very interesting to see all new people. Everybody hated the previous leadership. They were like, oh, X person, like they were so mean, they were so crazy. Like, I'm so glad that Next happened. And then they looked at me like, hey guys. I'm like, hey guys, like one of the founders of Next here. So you know, that happened. I stayed in XGN for a bit, for like 6 months actually. I just stayed under the radar. I went up to like an MSG. I wanted to get higher, but like every time that niggas were like, oh yeah, go and like recruit, like, or not recruit, there's like a nigga that needs trained in, like I had to go to school. Like I was in college. Like I can't go and train someone in. And then like it happened so many times in a row that I didn't get to say anything because I was like gone. And they just demoted me back to a staff sergeant. I was like, damn, that sucks. Because I've never been a good recruiter. And one of the newer things with XGM, I don't know if it is now, but like recruiting was a big thing, and you needed to recruit if you wanted to rank up. I was never really a good recruiter. Like in my whole time, the first time or second time, I guess, in XGN, for the 3 years, I'd only recruited like 10 people, maybe 12 people, something like that. Like actually me going out and recruiting people. When people had like hundreds. Other people like that were like my rank. So one thing that happened while I was in XGN, right before I left, I got poached. And it's funny, but I got poached by NE. Now NE is currently a community in Hydra, but I got poached by NE while I was in XGN. They said, hey, like you know, the leader was like, hey, like I know you and Mag, they brought up Mag, like we're like really big in XGN, and we kind of just need your help over here. And we were like, let's check it out. Because they were like describing it and it sounded really cool, and I was like, okay, whatever, like let's do it. Like I don't necessarily care. So I left and I went over to NE, and me and Mag went over to NE, and we were looking at everything. We were like, we can't do this. We can't do this. Like, it was like, nigga was like, oh yeah, we can, like, if you stay around and, you know, get to meet everybody, we can give you like free rank and everything. And I'm like, bro, like, I get the need that you need people and you need like leadership, but like when you hype something up and then you join the Discord server and it's really not much at all, it's like, damn, that sucks. So, you know, that happened. And then I guess like a couple months later, we just left. Like me and Mag, we were like, yeah, we're out. Like, sorry. We're not really interested. But one thing I want to just go back on before I end off real quick. While we were in Nex for the first like 3 months, I'm telling you, the harassment that we got was terrible. Like us getting DDoSed, people getting doxxed, like it was crazy. And what's really unfortunate about it is our friend Sinister, who came along for the ride, really got a lot of it, like the brunt of like a lot of harassment. And he like got really sad and really depressed, and like it got to the point where he was anxious to get on Xbox. He didn't want to do it anymore because he felt that it was to the point that he got like essentially like PTSD from like the harassment, or just in general the gaming community scene, with like the work that he had to do, the people that he had to interact with, the situations that he had to deal with. And it sucked. It still sucks to this day because I don't know where he is. And he was like my little brother. And I don't know where he's at. And I don't know if he's good or not. But I hate to say it, but I blame the gaming community scene for that. Like, y'all killed off a whole leader when all he wanted to do from the very start was improve the scene and make everybody peaceful with each other. And he got flamed for it. And he took that to heart. He took it personally. And it sucks because, like, again, he was like, I consider him like my little brother. I haven't spoken to him in like over a year now. I hate it. Like, that's kind of like, I regret leaving Nex because like, or not leaving Nex, leaving XGN because like it was the wrong idea to do. It was the wrong thing, morally wrong to do what we did. I also loved helping people, and I would have been able to do that in the position that I was in. And still to this day, if I could ever get back into anything Exiled or even TSB, Hydra, into like a good position, I probably would. Because I fell in love with it. And it sucks that he was part of that and he got driven away from it because of something that I indirectly was a part of. Like if I never left, if I never decided to leave, he probably wouldn't have left. If I didn't decide to leave, he wouldn't have gotten as much harassment as he did. And like, people threatening him and his family. Like, it's terrible. And again, this is something that's never been acknowledged. maybe because these high leaders don't know exactly that happened, but people from XGN, people from Hydra, like, they did that. Wasn't just like the small like Omega communities that they have now. It was also you guys that like drove him away, and that sucks. And I wish that wouldn't have happened, because he was a good guy. That's all he wanted was peace. So I guess what I can say about my time in XGN, I think XGN, I loved it. I still, dude, I would take a time machine to go back and like stay in my div lead's position. I would love to be back in that position. I would love to help people, but I don't know if that will ever happen again. And I have the knowledge, I have the reputation, I have the skill to be able to help people in those situations, and just in general for people to grow. And I kind of want this to be a memoir of what can happen when people aren't ready to change. We would have never left if people weren't ready to change. Next would have never happened if people would have considered, you know what, let's get rid of the blacklist. Start making friends with Hydra. You know? And it really does suck, because I have the right to criticize these places because I was a part of it. I grew up in it. I saw the very good and the very, very ugly of it. People threatening to kill people. People swatting niggas. And then people blessing people with fucking consoles, like, when they can't afford it. Giving away products. Having a heart-to-heart. And I wish I could be back in that position to be able to do that with people again, where I can directly influence and help someone. But I can't. And I don't know if it ever will change, because there needs to be acknowledgement. And I'm really scared for this video to come out and they're not going to give it any attention, and they're just going to call me a hater, and I'll just get attacked, when the purpose of this video is to start a conversation and for us to talk like grown men, talk like I've been there, you know, which I have. I've seen and built up things before. I've seen things get torn down. I've seen and been a part of things building up. So I have the right to be able to criticize. I don't want to attack anybody individually. It may seem like I have, but in reality, you guys are the people that I want to talk to the most. These leaders of these communities, because even if I can't bring myself back, even if they don't want me back in their communities, I still want to have the mature conversation to try and influence them to do the right thing. So that's what I have to say. That's my look at it. And Sin, if you're watching this, please hit me up. My Discord hasn't changed. I love the scene. I love the people in it. Even though some people say some wild fucking things publicly, I still love it and I wanted to see it. I want to see it prosper. I want to see it not be plateauing like it has been for years. That's all I gotta say.